Hello, and welcome to the Dissident Mama podcast. Today, my guest is Michael Sisco. He is the host of the upcoming Trad Forum, which is taking place in Romney, West Virginia on September 17th. So welcome to the show, Michael. I want you to introduce yourself to the listeners/viewers. I've had you on before to talk about you and some of your other ventures. So let's find out about the Trad Forum. And then if we have time at the end, we can chit chat about some other fun things.
Hey, well, I appreciate you having me back. That was quite a while ago at this point.
Yeah,
What was that, like a year and a half ago?
at least. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't even know how to introduce myself anymore because I've kind of things have evolved a little bit. Let's see. I used to just be a podcaster and a live streamer.
Now used to be, you're retired from those ventures?
No, I still live stream, but I have the content will be changing dramatically soon to I'm starting a show on pro wrestling. So and while we're talking about that, I actually will be wrestling at RalphaMania on December 10th in New Jersey. So if you want to see me wrestle a pro wrestling match,
Okay.
you can get tickets for that at killstream.live/RalphaMania. So I'm a pro wrestler now.
Yeah, I definitely want to make time at the end to find out about that because I knew about that, but I have no idea how that spawned into the awesomeness that is destined to be.
Well, it's gonna be fun.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously I'm a former candidate for Congress and host of the Trad Forum. I guess I'm just an overall opinion. I put out my opinions still, and apparently I'm a threat. Most importantly, I am a threat to democracy. That's the most important thing.
Me too. That's why we're such good friends, Michael.
Yeah.
Now, you also used to have something called Saints Edward. Am I saying that right? St. Edward's Media. What happened to that? Is that defunct?
Yeah, during the campaign, I just didn't feel like dealing with the reporting it to the congressional audit stuff, so I just scrapped it. But
and you occasionally still write. Didn't you write something for Gab News recently?
Yeah, I actually wrote their most popular article, I believe. Right, we got the most interactions on Gab of all time, which was about the Russia and Ukraine issue.
Okay, I'll link to all this fun stuff. So, well, let's get into it. Obviously, you're a cultural critic, which is what I like to say. When people are like, what do you do? I've decided that that's what I'm going to say. I'm a cultural critic. You are also a fellow Orthodox Christian. So why is this Trad Forum happening? And is it the first one?
No, it's the second Trad Forum, second annual Trad Forum. The point of it, honestly, is to continue to like basically let's get together with other people with shared values. It's not an ecumenical thing. It's not even an Orthodox thing, to be honest. It's just, hey, here's these other people with traditional Christian values. Let's discuss how do we navigate our culture and, well, in the face of a government that hates us, a culture that's pretty vehemently against us in a certain section of the country, certain little hubs, and how do we go about kind of working together to navigate that? That's the point. And so you hear from, I got Dr. E. Michael Jones, for instance. He'll be coming back. Last year we had.
Tell us about last year, who the speakers were, and then who's returning from that.
Okay, yeah, last year it was Luke Kindrat, who we miss, of course. David Patrick Harry, Michael Witkoff, myself. I feel like I'm missing somebody.
Was it in West Virginia?
No, it was in Indiana.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did y'all have a theme other than just traditional values?
We did, but I forgot it. Yeah.
Well, you have a website for this year's, which is what?
Tradforum.com.
Trad. So TARD as in tradition forum.com. Is there any information on there about last year or video or audio of last year's speakers? Any of that kind of high tech stuff?
No, what we did last year, we basically just gave the footage to the speakers.
Okay.
And then they could do with it whatever they wanted, which was usually they would put it behind some sort of paywall or give it to their like subscribers or whatever.
That's cool.
Yeah, this year I plan to do a similar thing because I don't like, to me, when you have an event where it's only like around 100 people, if that, and you're having like a intimate kind of networking event, it kind of cheapens it when you're just blasting it everywhere. So if we're going to incentivize people to come out to it, I mean, if you want to enjoy the trad forum, you got to show up.
Well, being a speaker myself, that is good to know. So I will make it extra special, incentivized for people to view my speech. I'm going to be beginning the speeches on Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. I don't have the full program in front of me, but it's basically you.
Yeah, tell us.
Jim Jatris, Carson Wolf, and Metropolitan Jonah in the morning.
Okay.
And maybe inserting one more, but
okay.
We'll see.
And then there's an intermission to tool around Romney and see the sights.
Yes, and go eat lunch.
Okay.
And explore the town, which I will no longer be living in by the time the event comes. But yeah.
All right, so we've got me, Jim Jatris, Metropolitan Jonah, and then break, and then tell us about the folks in the afternoon.
It'll be Kai Clips, myself. Well, I'm kind of speaking twice. I'm giving opening remarks, and then I'll give my real speech in the evening to kick us off. Roosh V will be the keynote. Dr. E. Michael Jones is returning. And see, I think that's it.
Did you get Carson Wolf? Was he in the morning?
Yeah, he's in the morning.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's even if I was not on the docket, that's a pretty incredible lineup and such a different array of people. Would you say, besides traditionalism, because there can be atheists who are traditional or pagans, right? But is the most common factor here, other than traditionalism, that they're Christians?
Well, you can dispute that with Kai Cliffs because he's Mormon. But he's not a Trinitarian. Yeah. But for the most part,
he's not a Wiccan. He's not a Wiccan.
No, he's not a Wiccan. Okay. He's a good guy. I like him. We got to get him. Hopefully, when he watches Metropolitan Jonah and Roosh, we can get him on Team Orthodox.
I had never heard of him, and when you invited me to it, I was poking around. I knew who most of the folks were, but I didn't know about him. And I watched some of his stuff. Very young, but very wise beyond his years. He seems pretty smart.
Yeah, we got varied ages too this year. We got the boomers, we got the millennials, we have Gen X,
That's me, Gen X baby.
We got the Zoomers too, so
got it covered. Okay, you do have a theme this year, and I'm pretty sure you remember what it is. Why don't you tell everybody what that is?
Ancient wisdom for modern trials.
I like that.
I got that memorized.
Okay, being a person who has not written her speech yet, but has thought about what I'm going to be speaking about, I'll probably do it last minute like I do everything. But what do you mean by that? Kind of give people who, after this interview, may be on the fence about buying a ticket. What does that mean? It sounds lofty and lovely, but to you, what does that mean? I know you don't want to give your speech that you're going to be giving there, but kind of tease people out to where they want to buy that ticket.
Sure. I'm sure every speaker, especially those who aren't of the same faith exactly, this will have varied meanings or takes, and that's okay. But for me, ancient wisdom is really the ultimate truth, the fullness of the faith, orthodoxy, and what the church father, what the gospel, the apostles, and the church fathers teach. So what are they teaching us to how to relate towards what we're experiencing now, and how do we live the Christian life of repentance with in our context, which I'm sure is going to be probably not the content of my speech per se, but probably more of what you're going to hear from Metropolitan Jonah and Roosh. I know Roosh is going to be speaking about detachment more so than, more specifically, Metropolitan Jonah will probably be about repentance. I will probably tie in the Christian tradition of state, basically.
Of what state?
Of of the Christian relationship to the state.
Got it.
And how we can kind of use that to dictate how we view our role in engaging the state as Orthodox Christians.
So there could be detachment from Roosh, could be no relationship to the state. I have no idea. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's saying.
No idea what he's gonna say.
Right? It could be a total, personal secession out of the world. But you see it as we can have a relationship with the state. How so? Because the state currently hates us, like you said.
Yes.
Every institution that you can think of, from the library to the dog catcher to the people that get their NGO funding at universities and their NUH funding, they all hate us. So what do you mean by that? Would it mean running for office like you have done? You had run for what? U.S. House?
Yeah, I ran for House.
Okay. So that's the feds. You were going for Washington. What do you mean? Can you kind of parse it out a little bit?
Well, I don't think it necessarily means. Well, sure. Let's go back to ancient Rome. Well, not even really that ancient, but let's see. What's the emperor that was before Constantine? I'm having a brain fart here.
I'm having a brain fart too.
The biggest persecutor of Christians in the early church.
It wasn't Diocletian, was it?
Yeah, it was Diocletian.
Oh, yeah, I get an A+. Excellent. Okay.
But he wasn't that far behind. There's really less than a generation between him and Saint Constantine.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that we will have another like 1,000 years Byzantium type reign here, but we really don't know. We don't know what kind of miracles, there's no reason to be black-pilled, right? There's no reason to despair and say, oh, this is going to be terrible. This is going to be a miserable existence for us. We're defeated. And I think that defeatist attitude is really, really anti-Christian, and it's almost anti-Christ in a sense.
I agree. Because
we already know how it ends, which is in victory and the return of Christ and the day of resurrection and the victory over Satan and then the new earth and all that. That's literally told to us. But we don't know what's going to happen in between, and we don't necessarily know how if it's the end or if it's just another cycle. We don't know that. There are obviously we want to have an understanding of what the end times will look like, the prophecies of the saints, but the purpose of that isn't to just hey, let's not worry about it because it's all whatever. We don't have to engage our society. The purpose of that is so that we can recognize the signs of the Antichrist and not fall for the Antichrist religion and his deceptions, and then reject Christ in exchange for that. So that's the purpose. But what I'm trying to say is, I don't. Even though the conversion of Saint Constantine was a miracle from God, there were probably other things happening. I don't think the Christians were hiding. I don't think that they were completely detached from Roman society. They weren't, because we had a martyr. We had martyrs in the gladiators in the stadiums, gladiator stadiums. We had the Christians were speaking truth to their culture. They were engaging. They were engaging the emperors. They were, and so I think that we have to continue to do the same. So I'm not saying support our democratic system, because I don't support it, but I'll engage it by running for office.
Right.
So I think anything that we can do to really perpetuate our values and the truth, we should be doing. I think it's our duty to do it.
So ancient wisdom for modern trials. Ancient's a pretty specific thing. There's a little wiggle room on a century or two in there. But why did you choose that? Just because modernity is so horrifying? Or
I just wanted to troll Ancient Faith Radio, to be honest with you.
Oh,
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
He's just kidding. Get the full quote. Yeah, he's just kidding. No, but why did you pick that? Is it just something because you're studying? That's what you do, I mean, as Orthodox Christians, to those of you who are not, we think about ancient things quite a lot. So
yeah. Well, really, because I mean, our faith is eternal, therefore it's the most ancient thing that's existed. So
it just seemed natural.
Just seemed like it made sense.
All right, so here's another question I have about verbiage. All right, the word trad, it just means traditional, but because of the internet and a variety of things that happen on the internet, trad has become a word that can be upheld as something very positive, or it can be an insult. It can even be an insult within quote unquote conservative circles of Christianity. How would you describe it, and what would you want people to know, what it means to you or to the event?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I kind of get I think it is honestly a kind of a tacky name, to be honest. But I didn't want to rebrand because people were begging for the trad forum to come back. So I think to me, traditional means honestly just upholding the faith and living according to or Christian principles, more specifically patristic teachings. That's all it means. It doesn't mean LARPing in some like weird costume and old-fashioned clothes, which is I think maybe the insult.
Yeah. Cosplay or whatever.
Yeah. That's to me, just trad is being truthful. So
now you're talking through the Orthodox lens, obviously. So let's go back to the speakers. Not all of them are Orthodox. I think it would just be who? Me, you, Roosh, Jim Jatris, Metropolitan Jonah.
Yeah.
And so that gives you at least 4 other speakers who are not. What do you, not that you want to speak for them, but why did you invite them? Why do you think they would represent traditionalism in a way that would be on par with your worldview?
Well, I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, if we want to have any sort of political influence at all. We only account for maybe 1% of the U.S. population as Orthodox Christians.
Mhm.
So pragmatically speaking, it becomes necessary to build alliances with people of other faiths that have similar values and core agreements, like maybe on issues like not killing babies, on gay marriage, for instance, and opposing the LGBTQ agenda. Just being, I don't know, just not explicitly evil, not wishing to mutilate children or these sort of things, and people who have an understanding of who is behind a lot of this globalist agenda that wants to root out Christianity and anything that stands in its way.
Well, Michael, people would say you're being political, right? And if you say everything's political because left-wing insanity and neoconism has made it such, why, you are a fascist. So you're not talking about right. Go ahead.
I am a Christo-fascist. Get it right. Get it
That's right. Christo-fascist who hates democracy, right? So, that's what gets me about the naysayers and the people who push back against traditionalism is they're like, oh my gosh, they make everything so political. It's just horrible. And it's like, well, it has been made political for us. At the end of the day, I think most people I know that would call themselves traditional or right wing just want to be left alone, but that obviously is not occurring. So if you don't want to be beaten up or, have fewer civil rights to no rights than other people, or want to practice your faith without anybody messing with it, have your babies, get married, do all these kinds of things like, traditional marriage, one man, one woman, or define marriage in a very specific way, we're not being political. So what do you think about that whole thing where you're being political, Michael? Stop being so, our favorite girl, Girl says, you're being ideological. Just stop it now, sir.
Well, I mean, that's rich. She's has an ideology that is basically a religion that's contrary to orthodoxy. So,
yep.
Which is progressivism. No, I think, okay. So, well, yeah, you can't escape politics. I don't know how to really the hard thing about like responding to stupid tropes is they're stupid tropes. So you can't really develop an intelligent response to a stupid trope because it's a stupid trope, usually being spouted by stupid people. But I think the core difference is, the core thing to remember, especially if people calling you a fascist and you don't like, I'll even get this from like libertarian types or a lot of conservatives even who are, triggered by my views on government. Well, it's all about freedom, right? Freedom, freedom, freedom. We hear this a lot, not from people like Sarah Riccardi Swartz, and except when it comes to certain issues. The core thing is I want freedom from evil, not for evil. And that's really the core difference. So you have people like me that want that freedom from evil, not for evil. And then you have kind of a libertinish, kind of even people that would identify as conservatives that want freedom for everything, which, as we see, has basically opened the door for evil to take a grasp, to take a grounding in our society, and they're not going to. And so, yeah, it's like a deception. It's like, oh, it's freedom for everyone, because if they don't have the freedom, well, you might lose yours later. And it's a trick, because then all of a sudden they take our freedom a way to just be decent human beings and to live out our faith. So there's that. Those people in the middle that just want freedom for everything, which they're really duped. They're deceived, mostly by this like really an Enlightenment mythos, Enlightenment philosophy, American mythos, kind of our origin story. There's a lot wrapped up in it, and along those lines, pursuit of happiness, all that jumbo. And then there's the actual. I would put people like Sarah Riccardi Swartz in this camp, even though she's portraying herself claiming to be Orthodox. But people like her and people who think like her, they want freedom for evil and nobody else. They're actually just evil. And so there's those three camps. There's freedom from evil people, but not freedom for evil, which is where I would place myself. So people on that far left spectrum would call me a fascist, and I'm okay with that. I don't care. Call me whatever you want. Spooky words. I think Christo-fascist sounds pretty cool. I tend to call myself a reactionary, right-wing, Christian nationalist, whatever. I like that word. Christian nationalist is cool. I usually just call myself a right-wing reactionary. That's whatever. And that, yeah. But that's kind of, to me, that's the layout of what we're dealing with here, is confused people in the middle. What I described on the right, and then what I described on the left. And that's kind of the paradigm that I think is an accurate paradigm of what's actually happening. So I know you'll hear arguments about, well, the left wing and right wing paradigm is fake, and it's all like, well, maybe if you're looking, it depends on how you're contextualizing it. But if you're looking at the broader context of reality, there's evil and there's the opposition to evil. And that's how I view it.
I think that black and white perspective scares people who want to, and there is nuance to situations, I get that, but that they want to take the nuance and tease it out and spin it up and make word salad out of it, and then confuse the middle, like you were saying. So instead of just saying, no mas, no more, this is too much, we not only want to take back that ground or stop the madness, but we want to take back ground, because prepositions are important, right? From versus for, right? You want freedom from. That doesn't mean, right? The live and let live used to be privacy of your own bedroom, do your thing, consenting adults. That was the trick. That was the ruse, right? And then, but it'll never happen in America, when gay quote unquote unions, marriage, whatever, was made legal through the Supreme Court, even though they're not a legislative body. Everybody's like, well, it's still okay, because all the things that you crazy people are warning about will never happen. Well, I've gotten to the point where if people say that'll never happen in America, I'm like, just wait 2 weeks or 2 days, So we're going to take a break in just a second, Michael, and then I hope you can come back with me. But I think that's such an interesting perspective. I don't know how to describe like what I am now, other than an Orthodox Christian, a wife, a mom. I'm obviously somewhere on the right, but am I a Christian nationalist? I don't know. I don't really like nationalism. What do you mean by nationalism? So all these words get complicated. But what I do know is things suck pretty bad right now. And I think 99.9% of the people get that. So let's pick up there, take a break. We'll get back with you in just a minute, and we'll finish talking about that and then find out about maybe your wrestling. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. See you in a sec. Okay, Michael. So I was just basically saying how I think most people can agree that progress and modernity is a train wreck. So a lot of times when I'm talking with people and they're like, well, what you believe is nonsense and this, and that, and extremism, and yay, democracy, I would say, well, that hasn't panned out pretty well. So I think most people, maybe most is a strong word, a lot of people that a few years ago were kind of just thinking this can never happen in America. And then everything is happening that was warned about. Get that something strange is afoot. So I see you have the double-headed eagles behind your head there. How would you describe your, I guess, I don't want to say ideology because that's a bad word, but like your political philosophy, that will be in concert with your faith?
Sure. Well, I think that the Byzantine system, honestly, is the most ideal. Well, I mean, I kind of fancy. I probably wouldn't even bother with the whole Senate, I think, hereditary Senate thing like they had. But believe it or not, even though we had the Byzantine emperors, they still maintained the Roman Senate. Of course, the senators were hereditary, and they actually existed in the Byzantine Empire as a carryover from the prior Roman Empire before the conversion. The whole Byzantine thing is kind of a modern kind of distinction between the pre-Christian Roman Empire and the post-Christian, or the Christian Roman Empire. Nobody was like, I'm a Byzantine, but they were just Roman. I think some form of monarchy is the ideal, and it's the only form of government that actually has a church service associated with it. I see a lot of canonized saints. I don't see any canonized elected officials. It's to me is a reflection of everything that we do in our earthly life should be an imitation of heaven and of God. And so a monarchy, obviously, the what's that? The Sabaoth is not a democracy. The kingdom of heaven and the Sabaoth is hierarchical, and there is no. And if you ask me, the first example of democracy was Lucifer's rebellion and the descent of him and the other angels into hell, and those are the demons. Which I guess might sound crazy to some people, but that's what I believe to be the representation of an ideal system of government on earth. And sure, is it going to be perfect in a fallen world? No, but it's going to be a heck of a lot better than this democratic experience that has really wreaked, when you look at it objectively, wreaked havoc on the earth. There's nothing compared to the first two world wars and the unipolar system of domination that the liberal democratic order has imposed on the world up until recently. Now that we're moving into a multipolar world on the global stage. And frankly, nothing's been since Christ, nothing has dismantled the Christian world order as much as the so-called liberal democratic order has. So I think that if you're Christian and you really believe in Christ and you really want a society that is guided on Christian principles, and if you don't want that, well, you're probably not actually Christian. You might want to evaluate your belief in your faith a little more. But yeah, I think you should question whether or not democracy is really such a good thing for a Christian to live in. I don't think it is.
Yeah, so the double-headed eagle's about balance.
It's
Uh,
about the proper relationship of the church and the state. So we call it symphonia in the Byzantine tradition, and you'll notice that that tradition was adopted by the Russian Empire and the czars, which they had a different model organizationally than the Byzantines did. Like they didn't bother having a senate, which I like. But yeah, so Symphonia with the double-headed eagle, you have the church that is ideally, this is the ideal. It didn't always match reality on the ground, and that's okay because we live in a fallen world with humans. But the ideal is that the church is in control, in charge, has full authority over the spiritual matters, and the temporal kind of like the temporal application of law. That would be the state or the emperor. And they're not supposed to over like cross jurisdictions per se. So the emperor shouldn't be kind of dictating or choosing the next hierarch, kind of like we see with the Turkish picking their citizens to be the ecumenical patriarch, or whatnot. Yeah.
So it's ordered, it's hierarchical, it is historical. And I think that's interesting too, like the aspect of history that people think, monarchies were a gazillion years ago, and that it wasn't throughout so much of human history
Most of
what
human
was occurring,
history.
right?
Yeah.
And that they think about these runaway kings, absolute monarchs with no accountability, and that's just not the way it was. So you've got that their history is bad, not really understanding that there was accountability within all those layers from the lowest to the highest. And I think on top of that, so the bad history, but also you've got kind of the Protestant ethos where people here in America specifically think there can be heaven on earth, right? A very Puritan model. And that's just not the way it is. So that's why I always go back to, instead of defending, something traditional, I just try to put people on the offensive to say, well, why don't you defend this thing that we're all living through that's horrifying and unhealthy, spiritually, mentally, and physically for everyone. So yeah.
And for Orthodox Christians who may still be genuine Orthodox, but who have a little trouble getting over this democracy thing. Well, Symphonia is an Orthodox. It's I would say it's part of our holy tradition, and so I would ask you, how can you realistically achieve Symphonia between a democratic state and the church?
It's not possible.
Yeah. And so that would be my question. There was something else I wanted to go off of what you said, but I forgot.
I mean, it'll come back to you. But and then another thing, just the bad history, right? Democracy, even in America's short history, that's a very 20th century Reconstruction, nationalistic, nation statist, actually not nationalistic, because those could be different things. A nation state concept that was foisted upon people that did not exist prior to the 1860s. So yeah, bad history. It's like, where do you start trying to critique things with people who are just want to call you names and don't know any history at all? It's crazy. So let's get off some of this heavier stuff. Let's talk about your pro wrestling. What the heck? Where did it come from? Why are you doing it? And just tell us all about it. Get us excited about it.
Sure. Well, in my early 20s, I've grown up watching wrestling my whole life. When I was a child, I just happened upon it flicking channels at my grandma's house. And, at grandma's house, I was allowed to watch things that I wasn't allowed to watch at home. And so that's how I started watching wrestling. I remember watching Jake the Snake when I was like tiny. I was tiny. I was a young child. That was even before the whole Attitude Era of the 90s. And well, when I got into my 20s, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to wrestling school. And so I did. I went to wrestling school for a while. I never ended up having matches. I just trained, and then life happened, and I never got into like working the indies or being a pro wrestler. I just, and then, I'm co-hosting the Kill Stream with Ethan Ralph, which I kind of view as like an outreach because I'm like the orthodox voice on there. I temper Ethan's proclivities.
How often do you do that? The co-hosting?
Sometimes once a week. Sometimes I take a couple weeks off, and it's a little sporadic, but it's gonna be a little more regular, I think, going forward. After I'm moving to Texas, by the way, so there's that.
Nice.
But he decided that he wanted to do a wrestling show called RalphaMania, and it was just kind of an idea that he just threw out there to his audience, and I latched on, and I was like, well, I love pro wrestling. And I told him in private, I used to do this in my 20s. I could wrestle a match for you. And so I've been, we haven't like announced, I don't have an opponent yet officially. I don't have an opponent, but I started training about 4 months ago, started retraining, and I'll be ready for a match for RalphaMania on December 10th.
Who would opponent be? Another content creator? That kind of thing?
No, I have no idea. We'll see who steps up to the plate. It'll have to be someone trained in actual pro wrestler.
Okay, so it could be somebody who doesn't have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, it can't just be someone who has no experience pro wrestling, or, because there are injuries are high. It's a very high risk sport.
Right.
Can't just wrestle someone off the streets.
Yeah, because I just discovered, I don't know, a week or two ago that there's, do you call that MMA fighting? Yeah, I guess MMA fighting, the mixed martial arts fighting between content creators, and it's televised, and I guess I don't know, I wasn't paying to watch it. I don't know how they make money, but whatever. It's a very strange thing. Like YouTuber gal over here who has 3 million followers who I've never heard of is over here fighting some other person who has tons of followers that I've never heard of. And they're like seriously fighting each other and bleeding and punching each other. So it's not going to be that.
No, pro wrestling is a little more intricate. Let's put it that way. Footwork, going off the ropes, knowing how to take bumps in the ring. It's not. Yeah, let's just say that the first time I stopped pro wrestling, I went into MMA and boxing after, and it hurt less.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I know the basics of pro wrestling. I'm a kid of the 70s and 80s, so I would see it coming on, in the afternoons on Saturday afternoons,
Yeah.
And then I've watched that show Glow, which is horrifying in some ways, but I think I learned some stuff about the behind the scenes things of the actual wrestling part of it, and it's intricate. Yeah, it's it's harder than, well, it looks hard, but there was that whole obviously thing. It's all fake. It's just all acting. Well, it's physical acting. I mean, is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, well, I protect the business, and so certain trade secrets, I'm not gonna just. For me, it's real. It's real life for me. And in RalphaMania, it's gonna be real.
Okay.
And I'm gonna give somebody a dirt nap in the ring. I'm just kidding.
Okay. And this is December 10th. You've got a lot of work to do.
I've been training. When did I start? I've been training at least 4 months now.
So you're a very interesting person. You're a cultural critic. You've run for office. you're hosting your second trad forum that has some pretty significant people on the bill. And then you're doing this RalphaMania thing in December. I mean, how do you have the time for all this?
Well, that's a good question.
Or do you? Are you just have no time and are
I'm spread
freaking-
thin. I'm
yeah,
spread thin. It'll honestly, I do have a real job that
and a real job, yeah. Forgot about that. That's
I'll
pretty
be
important.
getting a new real job soon that will give me more time freedom, actually, and more money. How's that work?
That's nice.
Yeah. So I mean, wrestling takes time. It's obviously I haven't been streaming as much, and part of that's because I've been wrestling.
Yeah, I get it.
I've been training up, and so I haven't been streaming much. I do want to do a stream soon to kind of promote the trad forum some more.
Well, let's get back to that. We can end on that note. Well, first tell us RalphaMania. Is there a website yet? Did you say through Killstream?
Yeah. It's I can give it to you and you for the description if you want. It's killstream.live/RalphaMania. One slash. I didn't mean to say it twice.
.live RalphaMania.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll check that out. Okay, so back to the trad forum. Is there anything else you want people to know about? Who is this Carson Wolf character? What's he about?
Carson Wolf, he's I know he worked with TP USA for a little bit. I think he left them for American. I know he's with the American Virtue now. So he's I think he's Protestant, or I think.
Okay.
But he's his views seem to be aligned with mine politically, at least. So yeah, that's Carson Wolf, a bit of a interesting feller.
And what is the trad forum website?
Tradforum.com. You can get your tickets for $65 via PayPal, or you can mail a check to if you want more anonymity or whatever, you don't trust that, you can send it to my P.O. box here in Romney, West Virginia, which is on the website, but it's P.O. Box 123, Romney, West Virginia 26757.
Well, I think this is an important thing that's going to happen. Kind of nervous about speaking, especially since I'm the first speaker. So I'm like, that's either going to be great because I'm going to be the first and kind of set the tone, or I'm going to totally fail at that opportunity. That could always happen. Or nobody's going to be there because it's at like 10 in the morning. Everybody's going to be like streaming in after me, which could work in my favor if my speech sucks. So I don't know, but I am looking forward to it and meeting like-minded people and, meeting people like you in person, like legit for real, hugging people. It's going to be great. Not
well,
just
the dinner is actually going to be after all the speeches. So we're going to end it with dinner and networking. So
the ticket includes dinner?
Yes.
Well, that's excellent. Okay. So you're getting one meal. And then all the speakers and then networking. You can take your selfies with Roosh and Michael Sisco and Jim Jatras. That'll be awesome. What else do we need to know? Are there plenty of hotels in Romney? That's not a problem.
There's 2 hotels in Romney.
Oh, okay.
So there's the Cool Wink and the South Branch Inn. South Branch Inn's a little fancier. It's also a lot more expensive. Cool Wink is less expensive. There's, if you can't get a room in either of those, there's Winchester about an hour away in Virginia, and then there's Kaiser about 30 minutes away. But one thing you could do if you're flying in, for those who are flying in and staying at BWI, you could stay at BWI and rent a car and drive out. You could do that. But yeah, there's a couple different options there. If you're flying, well, you gotta rent a car to drive to Romney. There's no taxis in Romney either.
Is there Uber or anything like that?
No, there's no Uber out here.
Okay.
It's the middle of nowhere. There's taxis, there's just no Uber. That's what I meant to say.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not not sure if I've been through that part of West Virginia before. So it's remote, and I looked at pictures, and it's pretty. And the man at the Cool Wink was very sweet and very old school. Like, you have to call and make your reservations there. Thought that was pretty trad. So that's really neat. So I'm really looking forward to it, Michael. And I hope that my little podcast can help promote it a little bit. I do have a couple of folks from my parish who have already bought their tickets. They're excited about going. They say they're going to support me, but I think they're going to see Metropolitan Jonah and E. Michael Jones. So that's okay. I get it. That's totally cool with me. But anyway, I thank you for letting me be a part of it. I'm really honored and looking forward to it and getting to meet you in person. And thank you for working so hard, because I know a lot of the things you do are pretty thankless and inspire people to call you dirty, mean names. So I'm praying for you, man, and I can't wait to meet you in person.
Believe it or not, I like it. I enjoy it. Bring it on. Bring it on. I'm like I'm the heel. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, my priest, who I won't say his name, it doesn't even matter. He wouldn't care. But my priest gave a homily on Sunday, and he was talking about how, if you're not being called these naughty words, when you're being called the naughty words, they just all mean they hate Christians, right? Whatever the ad hom is, it just means they hate Christians. Plug in whatever. And yeah,
especially the anti-Semite one.
Yeah,
that's the real one, because it's basically saying, I want Barabbas, not Christ. And that's what they mean when they call you an anti-Semite. So
yes, very well said. And I'm certain people will be listening and watching to this and taking it all out of context, and we will care for naught. So
had to throw them a bone.
That's right. Two anti-democratic zealots just speaking their mind. How dare they? All right, Michael, well, thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you in about a month, and keep us posted.
All right, I will. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you.